And I'm seeing this thing, and its wingspan was larger and wider than its body was tall. It looked like a little old man. And I was like, oh my God, can I swear on your show?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Okay.
Andrea, welcome. Thanks for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me back, sweetheart. It's so good to see you again.
Yes, you too. I think it was you were on, I think about 4 months ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yeah, about that, 3 or 4.
Yeah, and we had a great time then. So we're not going to cover The Conjuring today because we did that in the last podcast.
We did.
But you are pretty knowledgeable about, the whole UFO phenomena.
Well, that's a good word to use. And it's not, you've heard me say it before. There are no experts in the paranormal. There aren't. We're
Yeah.
all little children lost in the woods trying to find our way. And if we link hands, we're safer making the journey. So I do a lot of hand linking in this field, kind of bringing people along who have had experiences that they're just terrified to share because they feel like they're going to be shunned or just dismissed as crazy, or I mean, there's so many different, it's kind of, we live in a guilt by association world, and people are afraid to speak their truth just on their own by themselves. It's sad, but it's true. And what I do is I give people a safe place, a trustworthy person to share their stories with, because I'm never going to tell their secrets or lead them astray.
Mm.
This is, and I've said it many times, including at the opening of lectures. I didn't ask for this. I didn't. I can't even imagine how my life would be if I hadn't grown up in that spooky old farmhouse and hadn't had the experiences that I had as a child.
Mm.
If at the tender age of now 64, I look back on it and I realize that everything happened precisely the way that it did, precisely the way that it should have, in order for me to be here now,
Mm.
in this headspace and in this mindset,
Yeah.
in terms of my understanding and my knowledge. For me, the extraterrestrial phenomenon is not baked into a belief system. It is hardwired into my brain because of experiences that I have had almost lifelong, and presumably lifelong. I think that, prior to the age of 13, when I had my first conscious contact, um, I think that there's probably evidence that could be found of me having experiences prior to that. I just didn't know what it was.
Mm.
I didn't understand what was happening to me or why I felt so different, why I felt like such a misfit on the planet, how I was able to communicate with animals in a way that other people could not, why I could read light language, things that people, there are a lot of people that don't even know what that is. Um,
What is it?
but what is it? Oh, and you're one of them. Okay. Um, light language is okay. Well, let me bring it down to a very
Okay.
specific incident. Okay. About maybe 7 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, I had an experience where a ball, for lack of a better word, an orb, flew into the palm tree across the street from my home in Florida. I'm up in Georgia with my family for Christmas now, but I was in Florida, and it looked at first like a very distant point of light, and then it got closer and closer and closer, and then it landed in the center of my neighbor's palm tree. And all of a sudden, it opened up just a little bit. It was about the size of a very large softball, a larger than average softball, about maybe that big.
Okay.
And it opened a little bit, and this row of lights came out all the way around it. And they were flashing all different colors. There was green and purple and fuchsia and gold and blue and I mean just every color you can imagine, but different shades that maybe you're not used to seeing. And so it's in the tree, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And then I start seeing this being that's flying around it, and the being is larger than the orb itself. Like the being came out of it, and um, I'm standing not maybe 50 feet away, maybe. And I'm seeing this thing, and its wingspan was larger and wider than its body was tall. It
Okay.
looked like a little old man, and I was like, "Oh my God, can I swear on your show?"
Yeah,
Oh,
please.
okay, good. All right. Okay. So because this, I'm just going to say what I said. I was
Yeah.
outside. It's 11 o'clock at night or later. I'm by myself, and I'm just looking at it, and I went, oh, for fuck's sake, what is that? And I'm just talking, and it's just flying around the palm tree,
Yeah.
and it was a fairy. Now, I
Okay.
always thought fairies were a really nice old wives' tale, or, like from the fairy omnibus, Irish folklore and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Whoa, what a lovely idea, Tinkerbell. It's just
Mm.
that's adorable. How sweet. Fairies are real. They just happen to be extraterrestrials.
Okay.
And he looked like a little old man. I mean, really, he was not like attractive in the conventional sense of the
Mm.
word. And then he disappeared, and the lights started flashing again. And the thing that was most stunning to me is that when a car would go by, all the lights went out. They would
Okay.
stop and wait for the car to go by, and then they would come right back. And so I'm out there. I was out there for a good 20 minutes with him and his vessel, for lack of a better word. And I was reading the lights were speaking to me. The lights were speaking to me. Remember up in Close Encounters of the Third Kind,
Yeah.
how they
Yeah.
used the lights and the sounds to communicate? Similar to that, I
Okay.
would say. And the message was, don't forget about us.
Okay.
Don't forget about us. Because I had seen it one time before.
Mm.
Um, but the first time that I saw it, there was nothing that came out of the vessel.
Okay.
Um, and then all of a sudden it just shot off out of the palm tree. And then I had an experience that had prompted me to throw everything else I was working on aside and start writing down my ET encounters, my close encounters over my lifetime. And I had about maybe 200 pages already assembled in a Word document. And I I got a little perturbed. I was like, what do you mean don't forget about you? Of course I haven't forgotten about you. Of course I've included you.
Yeah.
And the message just kept coming, don't forget about us, don't forget about us. And then finally, after about 20 minutes, the lights went out, and it shot off like in a split second. It was gone. It was just in a split second, it was gone. Like nothing we manufacture on this planet moves at that rate of speed, period.
Yeah.
So I went back in the house, I opened my computer, and I read through all the stories that I had written down about all the experiences that I had had over the course of my lifetime. And I had forgotten to include the story about the vessel that came and landed in the palm tree.
How
I
old were
had
you when you
forgotten.
saw this?
I had to have been in my. It was, I would say, the first time I saw them was probably right after, not long after I moved to Florida.
Okay.
And then the second time I saw them was a few years later. Um, which was about, I know for a fact it was sometime in the fall of 2017.
Okay.
Okay. So I was in my, mid to late 50s.
Mm.
And I could see they were telling me with the lights, the flashing lights, don't forget about us. And so I went in and I went through, I sat there until 2:30 in the morning reading everything that I had written. And I had neglected to make mention of the first time that I had seen this particular vessel land in this particular place. And so I was so touched by their knowledge that I had not included them in my manuscript. Like how could they know that? How could they know that? And I was so touched by it, and I stopped everything I was doing, and at 2:30 in the morning, I wrote a vignette for my book called Hearts of Palm, because that's where the vessel landed, in the heart of the palm tree.
Yeah.
But it was all about my heart too, and my connection with them, and being able to read their light language. I can also read crop circles. When a crop circle drops, first of all, I know if it's real or if it's, somebody futzing around who has no idea what they're doing and they're idiots. And, you'd think they'd have better things to do with their time. But when they're legitimate and authentic, they speak to me.
How do you tell if they are, well, fake? It's probably
Yes, I
wouldn't make
know
sense.
immediately. If
Okay.
they're not absolutely perfect, they're fake.
Okay.
If they're not absolutely perfect, they're fake, because we can't duplicate what they do. We cannot. And there are some of them that have dropped that have been so ornate, and so absolutely perfect in their conformation and composition, that they did not come from here. I have also seen film that was released a number of years ago into the paranormal community, of 3 white light orbs that dropped over a field one night. A farmer who was having problems with wildlife getting into his fields had set up cameras on the back porch of his farm overlooking his field. And he's the one that captured the 3 lights that came down. They were there for maybe a minute.
Yeah.
And the next morning, and then choom, 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 they were gone. And the next morning, his whole field was this elaborate, ornate, beautiful crop circle. And we have it on film. So, we've actually, those of us that research that stuff have seen it done.
Is that
and
film on YouTube by any chance?
Yeah. Coffee. Okay. Oh, you have to see my Christmas mug. Dear Santa, it's a long story. It is. But I've been nice, not naughty. I have not been naughty. Santa's coming to see me this year, I'm telling you. What did you ask me?
What did I ask you? I was distracted by the mug now.
I know, it's cute, isn't it? It's so cute.
Yeah. Is there film of those 3 orbs on YouTube or...
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if that ever made it out to YouTube. Okay. A number of things have. I mean, people have, worked up the courage to put them out, knowing, unfortunately, that the paranormal field is something akin to a self-devouring beast that eats its own young. And so, when you put something out that's provocative or controversial, you have to expect that you'll be attacked first from within your own field of study, which is unfortunate. We should all work together with single-minded purpose toward a well-defined goal. It doesn't work that way, because human beings have egos, and human beings are very protective of their evidence, or, I guess just like to hoard their own stuff. And, everything that I capture, everything that I've experienced, I share automatically with people. And it's because I don't care what other people say. Yeah. I really don't. It It has no bearing on my existence, my experiences, or my life. And I know that I'm not here for everyone.
Mm.
And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I read a book years and years ago called What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. And it was really one of the best. Louise Hay wrote it. It's one of the best books I ever read, because it helped me, for myself, define my purpose and my mission and my emotional reaction to being considered a weirdo. I am a weirdo. I can't help it. I was born this way. I will die this way. It is part of my existence to engage with what I refer to as the galactic family, and to let others know that we are not alone in the universe. We are so not alone, it's ridiculous.
Look, it's a very, with regards to the whole paranormal subject, the only thing that will be consistent is that people will be divided. Because it's particularly with UFOs, I don't think we're alone in the universe either. And I mean, if we are alone in the universe, it's pretty scary that us as human beings are the most intelligent beings.
No, we're idiots. We're imbeciles.
Yes,
we know nothing compared with what there is to know.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm an open-minded skeptic in terms of what I read. So, I mean, because there's a lot of fake stuff out there.
There's a lot of junk.
Yes. Yep. Which I suppose is natural. The thing is, I did a deep dive into the whole Roswell incident, which was very interesting. And
it's the only time the government ever told the truth about something
for a day.
That has to do for one day.
Yeah,
for one whole day in a row, they told the truth, and then they thought second about it, and there we have the whole weather balloon fiasco, which is this is the worst kept secret in the history of humanity. There are millions and millions of people that have been and that have encountered vessels, have encountered crafts, have encountered, get downloads on a regular basis, are having conversations, are communicating with extraterrestrials. And I believe that that's because there are a lot of us on this planet that aren't exclusively human, that we have some little bit of DNA. About 10 or 15 years ago, when the scientific community cracked the human genome, they attributed 20% of it to our physical characteristics, our hair color, our eye color, our height, our average weight, that all of that. And then they just discarded the other 80% and called it junk DNA. That's our entire galactic history. For all intents and purposes, it's our individual Akashic records. And now, just now, in the last couple of years, have they begun to re-examine that 80% that not that long ago they discarded as useless. It's brimming with information about who we are, where we come from, and why we are here.
Well, the thing is, I mean, we are so different from any other living species on this planet. I mean, we've got this obsession with technology, and I mean, it's actually interesting that you brought up the subject, because I posted I did a couple of social media posts saying that you are returning to the podcast, and if any people are going to be watching, if they've got any questions, let me know before this date. And one, I got a few emails. And one is from Whitney Avery, who actually asks, do you think UFOs are among us? And you pretty much just answered that now. Yeah,
absolutely. In fact, I can see one from God. They're different. They appear differently. Hybrids appear differently. Human beings that are exclusively human being have an energy aura around them. Those that are hybrids have a corona around them. It's different. It's a different light. It doesn't just effusively evaporate into the ether around them. It's got a very well defined, almost like a halo effect. around them. And so, yeah, I can see a hybrid coming from 1,000 feet away.
And do
I
they
feel
know
them
that
before
they
I
are?
see them.
Do they know that they are?
No, no, a lot of
okay.
times, no. Sometimes, yes. And I know just by looking in their eyes if they know. Don't even have to discuss it with them.
Am I
But
an
most
alien?
people don't know.
What do you see when you look at me?
What I see with you is somebody that is eager and hungry to learn and to know, and is a very intelligent, articulate young man, and you have light years of learning to go. And my opinion, and I can't say. First of all, it's hard to see. You've got a hat on, so I can't even see your aura, and I can see them much more, with much more clarity in person.
Yeah.
And I'm not coming to Toronto in the dead of winter, so forget that.
I'm actually in New York now.
Oh, okay. So you're well, you're still in the frozen tundra. Yes. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't, if you're north of the Mason-Dixon line, you're stuck up there. You can come to see me in Florida and we'll have a blast, and I'll take you to, go see Mickey Mouse. Right. But no, I think that anybody that does this kind of work, anybody that does what you do, in terms of furthering human understanding and knowledge, is hybrid, is somebody that's got a particular connection to the galactic family.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's interesting if you look at, I've delved into Roswell, the whole Bob Lazar thing, Travis Walton. It's very, I think where a lot of people kind of make up their minds is, if there's no physical evidence, then it can't be true type of, it's either black or white, which you can't really have that mindset with the subject. Because, first of all, with the release of the Tic Tac video, which is evidence that these things are, whatever they are far more technologically advanced. They are light years ahead.
Yeah, those vessels were playing. They were showing off. I knew it the instant that I saw the video. I was like, oh God, they're jerking them around. Yeah. Look, they're just showing off.
Yeah.
They were doing calisthenics and stunts out there that proved that they were not man-made. They were not, because nothing can drop 60,000 feet in 3 seconds, and just plunge into the water, and then move against the current, and then boom, no.
And without making a splash.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty interesting. I've had a few guys from Skinwalker Ranch on the show as well, which is that's a pretty interesting place in itself. But I did ask the question, well, again, if there a lot of different theories, obviously, with as to what's happening at Skinwalker Ranch, but sometimes they've, some of the guys that I've had on have said, well, it's almost like whatever there is kind of playing with them. It's this type of trickster activity.
Yeah.
So I don't think, if these things don't want to be found, they won't be found.
Well, there is physical evidence. There's lots of physical evidence. Has it been released into the general public? No.
Well, here's the thing, and this is the whole thing with Roswell. In doing the research, I found that Stanton Friedman tried to get documents released, and he actually went to court for it, and he was doing it in the name of the Freedom of Information Act.
Right.
And some of the guys from whichever agency, whether it was whether it was from the Pentagon or whatever, actually went and saw the I suppose it was the judge, and said, well, look, they can't release everything because it's going to be it'll have an impact on the safety of mankind, basically.
Yeah, which is a crock. They don't want their power structure in any way delegitimized. That's really all it is. It's about retaining power and keeping this, very poorly kept secret, because they, the word from within the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, is, people can't handle this. They're not going to be able to handle this. Well, I don't think that that's the case at all. I think that they just want to preserve their power. And if people think that we're interacting with different races that are so technologically advanced, that it will undermine their confidence in what we perceive to be the authority figures in our society. It's really that simple.
Yeah, because I mean, the perception that we have is pretty much what we get from movies. You know, your Men in
Right.
Black, your E.T., that type of stuff. But you
Yeah.
know, there's and an interesting conversation about this with Carl Vibe, great guy, and we basically said, well, what if the perception we have that is basically created by Hollywood isn't what it's made out to be? You know, I mean, I've heard different theories. What if we are, as humans, like an agricultural experiment where
Yeah.
they're just monitoring us? And I mean, that's a pretty scary thought.
I don't find it scary at all. It seems entirely plausible to me.
Well, I mean, especially if they are so technologically advanced. And it's also funny that a lot of these sightings occurred, you know, when with the introduction of nuclear weapons.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
kind of
not
like,
that
well,
they weren't here before, they've been here for millennia.
yeah.
But when we started blowing up not only our planet, but because we live in a multi dimensional universe, when we do damage here, we're doing damage elsewhere as well. And when that began about 70 years ago, they came, if they could get here, they did in droves. And, you know, I've seen a number of different kinds of vessels and beings, and the research that's done around this, there are 57 known races that have either visited the planet or are cohabitating. The United Nations would not have a position for extraterrestrial emissary if extraterrestrials did not exist. Now, I also have been told by them that it's not 57, it's 58. You know, that I don't care how many come. All I want them to do is come and interact with us and teach us and guide us. And so much of our technology is, and our technological advancement has been a gift from them. It has been the result of what's the reverse engineering. You know, the stuff's there, honey. It, please believe me. Well, you don't have to believe me.
No, well,
But
look, it's you're actually touching on a lot of stuff that I want to talk about. Is you know, with you know, I always wondered, what if they, and I had this discussion with a friend of mine the other day, what if they took 10,000 humans, put them in on a planet similar to Earth? How long would it take for us to technologically get to where we are today without any help?
Yeah, with zero intervention.
Nothing. Yes.
What would make you presume that that hasn't already happened?
Well, well, here's the next question. Michelle Warwick asks, what is your opinion on parallel or alternate universes where we pretty much, there are different versions of ourselves in, you know, other planets or other realities? Yeah.
I think that that's conceivable. You know, I have no personal evidence that that exists, but I can tell you that I've had experiences that look incredibly similar to Earth wherever it is that I've gone. And I see people, one in particular that I know here on Earth, in this place that is very similar, but not quite Earth. And I've had several experiences where I've seemingly traveled. I have a number of incidents of lost time where I cannot account for anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours that I was supposedly here on Earth and yet was apparently elsewhere. And I welcome that. You know something, if I never ever had another experience from this day forward in the rest of my life has been so altered, so profoundly and permanently changed, by the experiences that I have had, that I could just talk about that for the rest of my life. And it brings me great joy and it brings me great comfort. And I refer to them as our galactic family for a reason, because I do believe that we are all family, that we are, everything is energy, everything is existence. It is all a manifestation of one great creation. Most, not all, but most of the advanced beings who have interacted with human beings are humanoid. Some are also seem to be hardwired AI. But everything that we have and our evolution, our spiritual evolution, our technological evolution, is all interconnected with them. And what they want for us is to save ourselves from ourselves, because they cannot do it for us.
Yeah, I mean, we are a self-destructing species.
Yes.
When you say people can, when the question is, can we handle the truth? I mean, we can't even handle racism. There's a lot of stuff that we just haven't got a grip on, which today, I mean, thinking about how far, human beings have come, trivial things like racism today is still a massive issue, and it's just ongoing, and we're just creating more and more issues.
Well, because it's about a fundamental misunderstanding. We are one human race.
Yes.
And we come in a wide, like when you look at the rainbow, that's why the rainbow has been chosen as the emblem for the gay pride, because we are one human race and we come in a multitude of colors and varieties. And we are all one. And what our galactic family wants for us more than anything is to eventually and as quickly as possible come to the understanding that we are members of the unified field of consciousness. That I studied philosophy. I have a degree in philosophy, and one of my favorite philosophers, Rene Descartes, wrote a thesis where he coined the phrase, "I think, therefore I am." And in my thesis for my degree, I switched it. I flipped the coin and I wrote, "I am, therefore I think." And even though there are, multitudes of people that have had experiences that they cannot explain any other way than we are not alone in the universe, they still have a great deal of trouble accepting it, because they know it's true. And it's that knowledge, that part of our 80% of that DNA that got discarded as useless is what's speaking to them and saying, "Oh, yes, all right, now you're on the right track. Now follow this course. Yes, because you come from here, or you come from there, or you come from there." My attachment that I have felt lifelong has been to the Pleiades, the Pleiadians. Now that's a beautiful constellation that you see most clearly in the winter sky. It's also known as the Seven Sisters, because there are 7 planets that are so bright that you can clearly make them out with the human eye. But there are actually more than 100 planets in that constellation. And it's our next door neighbor. If we can see it, it's our next door neighbor. In a vast and expanding universe, that's like throwing a cookie at your neighbor's front door and saying, "Oh, hi, how are you? Come on out and play." But the Arcturians are very prevalent. They don't even require bodies. They are light beings. There are a number of races. A lot of people are okay. Here's the thing, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but this is what we need to overcome. We need to overcome the fear that has been deliberately instilled in us And that has been done with purpose and reason to keep us fearful of something that we don't understand. And what I am telling you is that we are loved. We are loved in a way that a parent loves a precious child. We are loved. It's what I call higher love. What I feel for them. And when I have my moments, my time with them, I describe it as higher love. It's not even a kind of love that I feel for my own family. It's richer, it's deeper, it's larger, it's just enormous. And I have never been harmed. I have always been healed. I have never been frightened, not for a moment, of anything that I have ever seen. Instead, I am inspired.
And you've seen some stuff.
I have seen some stuff. Yes, I have quite a bit. And I think because my attachment to them is so pure of heart. See, here's the thing. They've had the opportunity all along to do with us as they please.
Yeah.
To deplete this planet of all of its natural resources if they wanted to manipulate us or to enslave us or to have us for lunch. That this has always been the case. And because instead they try to help us and guide us and support us and care about us. I think it was my friend Stanton Friedman who once said, "We're the greatest show going on in the universe right now." I hope I didn't misquote him, or that should be attributed to somebody else. But I miss him. What a sweet, wonderful man. But now he knows everything. Now Stanton knows everything that he searched for throughout his life.
The one thing I just find strange about Stanton Friedman is that he didn't believe Bob Lazar.
No, he didn't
called
believe
bullshit.
Bob
Yeah,
Lazar.
which is strange to me because Bob Lazar to me is one of the and I've said most days I'm like 50-50, but I tend to, I don't know, I don't know why, but I tend to believe the guy because purely because of the fact that they try to disprove that he worked at Los Alamos. Right. And there's evidence that he did work there.
Yeah.
So the question is, why did they try to disprove that? Which kind of...
I don't know. Well, the vast majority of disinformation that comes out into the public comes directly from the people who have something to gain by hiding the truth. So whenever I go to a paranormal event where we're dealing with this subject, either specifically like the Star Work Symposium I just lectured at a few weeks ago out in Laughlin, Nevada, there's always somebody there from the government, always. And I can spot them. I know right away. They just, talk about the ultimate misfit.
Yeah.
They don't fit in with the crowd. And that's fine, but they're there to see what we know. They just want to hear, how far we've gotten, how much they've been unmasked over the course of the previous year.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time. But the thing that the galactic family wants most for us is to understand that we are one human race, that there are really no borders, and that we must, if we are to preserve our planet and ourselves, then we have to literally change our mind. We have to look at our old reality with new eyes, in effect.
And it kind of feels like we're failing.
No, I don't think that we are. All right, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something that you need to know.
Okay.
Yes, we are failing.
Yeah.
But we're not failing entirely. If I felt that was the case, I just wouldn't even want to be here anymore. There wouldn't be any reason to hope, and hope springs eternal. I think that there are many millions and millions of people on this planet who are truly enlightened. and regardless of whether or not they've had close encounters, that they're just truly enlightened, and they're making their own spiritual ascension as part of their individual evolution, and they are moving the world forward slowly but surely to a new era of enlightenment and illumination. And I'm a little part of that, and so I'm proud to do my part. It's my job.
Yeah.
I perceive it to be that. That's my job. I didn't know what my job was for decades. I wandered around, doing this, doing that, doing the other thing, going, I'm here for a different purpose than this, not just merely to live, but to make a difference on the planet. Now, what is it? And then a bell went off in my head, and I started writing House of Darkness, House of Light, the trilogy. And that changed everything. That resulted in a major motion picture. It resulted in me being able to have a platform and a forum to discuss what really matters to me. Because in terms of ghosts and spirits, it might sound disrespectful. It's not. But I don't care who they were in life, that they still are in afterlife, and that we can communicate with them. That's a freaking miracle to me. So, I don't need to investigate something I already know exists. My whole approach to it is entirely different than most people that are involved in the field. And I'm all about dispelling fear rather than instilling fear. I don't know why human beings like to feel fearful, if it's the adrenaline shot that they get or what. But I like feeling filled with love and light and peacefulness. And that's why I know I'm not from here. I can't possibly be from here, because everything I experience on this planet seems to be the antithesis of it. But that's not really the truth of it. It's only a little part of the picture. On February 24th, did I tell you this before, Van? Did I tell you what happened on February 24th?
I don't know.
I don't think
what
so.
Happened? What happened on
okay, of this year? For months, I had been filled with anguish and anxiety from like November of 2021. Is when I started really, really feeling it, like something huge is coming. This is really terrible. And then the megalomaniac Vladimir Putin started moving his troops to the border of a peaceful, quiet Ukraine that threatened them in zero ways. And I knew, it was a struggle to get through last Christmas, because, I was trying to be all, merry and bright and sweetness and light. And in my gut, I was like, this is going to be so terrible. This is going to be so beyond the pale. We're not even going to be able to cope with this. I just knew it. I knew it. And I knew he wasn't going to amass 100,000 troops and then throw his hands up in the air and say, oh, I changed my mind. I think that would have been ridiculous for anybody to think that he wasn't going to follow through on his perceived threat to a peaceful, sovereign country. And on February 24th, I got up that morning and I felt literally sick to my stomach. I went out on the terrace of my home in Florida, overlooking the beautiful lake, and I was just rocking back and forth in my chair. And I had a cigarette and a cup of coffee. And I looked up into the sky, and I speak to them every day. I normally just get up every morning and say, good morning, thank you for coming. I call forth my ships, be known to me. All the things that I normally say to them every day. And then I have a multitude of sightings throughout every day, more so in the bright, daylight than I do at night. And I said, if there was ever a time for you to intervene, that time is now. Now is the time. And I know what the rules are, and I know you're not supposed to break them, and I know we have to save ourselves from ourselves, but this is different. And this is so bad, and this will be so bad that if you don't intervene to stop this, I don't think anything else will. And I was kind of yelling a little bit, like, being rather insistent, like, break the rules for Christ's sake, get down here. And I got the clearest, most succinct message that I have ever received, ever in my whole life. I could hear it. I could see the words in my mind's eye, and I could hear it. And it was a rather monotone voice, almost like a synthesized voice, like coming through a piece of equipment. For all I know, that piece of equipment could be my own brain. We don't know. Yeah. But this was the message that I received verbatim. If we are here, this planet and its people are in crisis. We are here. And 6 hours later, the attack began. And countless thousands of innocent people have lost their lives for no good goddamn reason other than a maniac is unleashed on this planet who is pure, unadulterated evil. And if we learn any lesson from this, it is to never again allow a single man to hold the sword of Damocles at the throat of the rest of humanity. He must be vanquished from this planet. He is pestilence on this planet. God knows he's not the only one, but he is part of the destructive force that is unleashed on this planet. And he must be silenced, and he must be vanquished. And this assault must be overwhelmed with the goodwill of the rest of humanity in order to stop this. But it won't bring a single life back. It won't. And this is our hard lesson to learn here in Soul School, because in Soul School, this life experience we call Earth, the test always comes before the lesson, always. And that's what makes it so difficult, because you would think that there would be enough people with enough intelligence and enough courage to stand up to that puny little man and stop him, even if it cost them their own life to do it. I am a spiritual warrior for peace. They are not counterintuitive concepts, and there are things worth fighting for in this world. Ukraine is one of them. It is a matter of good conquers evil and love conquers fear. And, the brilliant Madame Marie Curie wrote, "Now is the time for us to understand more so that we may fear less." But the vibration of this entire planet, between COVID, the onset of a virus that zero people had any immunity to the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and that list, we could finish out the show just me naming the people that were wrongfully murdered in this country because of the color of their skin. And that's just here, to everything else that has transpired over this period is why I keep telling everyone to wake up. This is the paradigm shift. It's now. This is it. This is our chance. And we are right on the precipice of destruction and disaster between the way that we have abused the planet on which we live. We are literally the only creature on planet Earth that fouls its own nest. We are the pestilence on the planet. We can either live in harmony with this planet and nurture her as the divine, or we can use her and abuse her. And guess what? We don't have a plan B, and we don't have a planet B, and we don't deserve either. We have no business going to the moon and Mars. Why? So we can pollute them too? Really, what's the point of this? I mean, to me, it seems so incongruous. It's literally ludicrous.
Well,
That
if you look at the root of everything, it pretty much it comes down to greed. It comes down to power, and I mean, it's just
yeah.
it's just ridiculous. I mean, even if I mean, there are obviously a lot of theories going around why, do we possess, the tech, like anti-gravity propulsion systems, which explains the way that these UFOs move. Well, the thing is, if we do, we probably wouldn't disclose it, because then we'd no longer need oil. And if we don't need oil, economies would crash. So it's a strange one. I just think that, to me, I believe that our biggest issue is disinformation and basically fake news, the media, because they control everything. They control the narrative.
Yeah, but don't throw all those eggs in one basket, because there is clearly a concerted effort by those in power who wish to retain power to misinform and fraudulently disperse so-called information, or as others have called it, alternative facts. There are no alternative facts. There is fact, and then there is fiction.
Yeah.
And there are legitimate, well-intended news sources on this planet, and in this country in particular, that do their level best, no matter how difficult it is, to disseminate truth. And then there are the lying liars who lie. And never the twain shall meet. And there's reason and purpose for it. Now, the reason and purpose for those who disseminate facts over fiction is because facts matter. And, the fourth estate matters. Our free press matters. That's why it's under so much attack, because it's a threat to those who want to brainwash a society, an electorate. And so there's that, so we're at war with truth and lies, and good and evil. This isn't even about political parties anymore. It's not. It's really about, are we going to acknowledge what is true, or are we going to just allow ourselves to be carried along this? A case in point today is the 10th anniversary of the massacre at Sandy Hook. And Alex Jones is in hock to the tune of $1.6 billion to the families that he put in harm's way with his conspiracy theories and his lies, his outright lies, that it never happened, that they were all actors, that Barack Obama arranged it so he could take all their fucking guns away. Well, you know what? They've all still got their guns. And in fact, there's plenty more where those came from. And he had to have his day in court, and he was outed. Did it stop him? Nope. He's still on the air. He declared bankruptcy. He's going to hide as much of his ill-gotten gains as he possibly can, and try to keep that money from the people who rightfully deserve it because of the hell that he has put them through for the last 10 years. And they'll probably never see a dime of it. Probably not, because that's how this system works. So it's time to upend the system. Now, I get that, but let me ask you this. Let me flip this with you. I know we only have a few minutes left, but let me flip this with you. In terms of upending the system, what would it mean if all of a sudden our galactic family made their presence known to everyone on Earth simultaneously? Do you think that there'd be an awful lot of warriors that just dropped their weapons and fell to their knees? Because I do. I think that it would be the one unifying force to let us all know that we are not alone, that we are being watched, we are being observed, and that the only way for us to integrate with them and to blow the hell out of this oppressive 3D environment in which we live and descend through spirit realm, through fourth dimension and into the fifth dimension and beyond, is for us to integrate with them, with the galactic family. And so that is my hope, that in my lifetime, I see that happen on this earth, because I think it is the one and only saving grace. Because as many millions, perhaps billions of people who are truly enlightened and living in a new age of enlightenment on planet Earth, there are maybe not in equal numbers, but in substantial numbers, those who are not, and those who have ulterior motives, and those whose common denominator is power and greed. And so while I was at Starworks, I lectured after my friend Regina Meredith, who I've done her show on Gaia a number of times, called Open Minds. And she posited a notion. She said, think about the, the image of the pyramid, and all the weight is at the base of it. And the pinnacle at the top is, the power mongers, the ones that control everything that happens underneath it. She said, what if we flipped it? Wouldn't the weight of the masses crush those that presume to control the masses? Once the people of Earth rise up, and we're seeing it. We saw it in Egypt. We see it in Iran. It's happening in Syria. It's happening in Yemen. It's happening in Ukraine. It's happening all over the world, where people are saying, no more, enough. No, there's got to be a better way to live, and let's find it together. So I think that when we tap into the unified field of consciousness, when we have our ultimate realization of oneness of all creatures, great and small, all of us together working in unison to make a better life for ourselves and for those we love, that's when the paradigm shift will make its final turn. That's when we will finally get to the place where paradigm shift, meaning what once was no longer is. That was then, this is now, nothing's ever going to be the same. And the only thing that I can think of that would precipitate that kind of instant change of mind worldwide would be a mass expose of our family all around us. And that is happening, but it's not happening the way I want it to. I don't think they're factoring my opinion into this in any way. But it is happening. It's happening one person at a time. My fear is that it's not happening fast enough.
It's funny that you should say that, because I've actually said it on a number of times in my podcast when delving into, the UFO phenomenon, is one way that'll, to get everyone to kind of get on the same page is for, UFO to, come into New York City or all over the world, kind of like an Independence Day type thing, where everyone kind of sees in the major cities all over the world, okay, we aren't the superior beings that we make out to be.
Well, that pump has been primed. It has. I mean, more people know what the acronym UFO means than any other phrase. They know what it means. We've been exposed to the concept long enough now that most people are fascinated by it or fearful about it. No, because mommy's doing an interview. Oh, sorry. Dogs. Just remember, dog is God spelled backwards. That's how divine they are. Even when they're loud.
I've got 2 little Scottish Terriers. I love dogs.
So you know. I know.
Yeah.
There was a president and Princess Peanut Buttercup, who I believe you have met already.
Yes.
And she's my little Chihuahua. She's my special angel. It's my baby.
There was a president that said something similar as well. I'm talking under correction. I don't know if it was Roosevelt that said, something along the lines of what we're talking about now, for the world to pretty much become one and to get on the same page is for, if UFOs or whatever, another.
It was Reagan.
Was there? It was Reagan. It was Reagan.
Yeah.
Or Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Reagan. Yeah. Yes. That was it.
And it was also the president who was in office when I was born, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Yeah.
Who warned us to beware of the military-industrial complex, and that was what he came from. He knew. Paul T. Hellyer, the former defense minister of Canada, had access to extraordinary information, having worked so closely with the United States, while Canada fused all of its different facets of the military kind of together under one umbrella, like we did with the Department of Defense. And he's the one that told me one time and said publicly as well, they came in droves when we started exploding atomic and hydrogen bombs, came in droves and looked down upon us and said, oh no, the children are playing with matches.
Yeah.
You know, and who's to say we're not their children? Who's to say we're not their seed, their spawn, that we are maybe some kind of experiment, perhaps gone awry? I know it's Christmas time, and there are going to be people that watch us go, no, it's the baby Jesus.
Well, well, look, we are kind of evolving. There's a lot of stuff happening we don't look the same like we did 500 years back.
No.
Or, whenever. Less hairy and all that stuff. And, there's also a notion that we are slowly but surely becoming aliens. Our depiction of aliens. There's so many interesting theories. No one really knows.
And it's good to think about.
It's fun.
It does no harm to expand human consciousness. But I can't think of anything else that would equalize things, that would level the playing field worldwide, than to have our galactic family come among us in a way where it was indisputable, undeniable. And that's my greatest hope. And they can't save us from ourselves. We have to do that. But the knowledge that they exist might be what tips us over this precipice and, brings us to a higher level of understanding and perhaps a higher level of appreciation for what we have, where we are, who we are, why we are here, and where we come from. Because when I got that message last February 24th, we are here, spoke to me specifically, not just about them out there. We are here, but we are here. We are a part of the healing, a part of the process, a part of the infusion of knowledge and growth. And substantively, we each have an opportunity to make a truly significant difference in the world in which we found ourselves, and will inevitably and eventually move on. I will tell you one thing, Van, I don't ever want to come back here. I never want to come back to Earth. I find this incredibly depressing, incredibly oppressive, a place. And it's a beautiful, beautiful planet, what's left of it, that we haven't destroyed or built a skyscraper on. But it's not that. It's about, the intermingling of human emotions and the need for some to conquer others, and the incredibly wide variety of ways that human beings have discovered to harm each other, that I find so repulsive and so demoralizing and so desensitizing to that the average 12-year-old has seen 11,000 murders on television by the time they hit that age. And then we wonder why mass shootings are so commonplace. First of all, opportunity. because there are guns everywhere. There's more guns in America than there are people, by 30 million or more. But also because it's meaningless to them. Life has no meaning. And so we have to rethink who we are and what we're doing. And I believe that the galactic family, that their presence factors in very heavily to that process. And so for as long as I draw breath into this vessel of mine, this is what I will talk about, and this is what I will share, and hopefully dispel some of the fear around this that was infused deliberately into the conversation, into the discourse, to keep people fearful, because the only way to keep people under control is to keep them fearful. And the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. Hatred is born of fear. It is its offspring. So as long as we continue to attack and conquer that, and the only way to do that is with love and light and illumination, to show people a different way of living, a different way of thinking. And so that's my purpose, and that's why I'm here with you today, my dear.
Imagine if money wasn't a factor.
Imagine
that.
Just go back and read the words of John Lennon's beautiful ballad, Imagine. Just read the words of that. That man had his finger on the pulse of the universe.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Well, Andrea, I know you have to go.
I do.
Otherwise, I mean, we could speak for hours and hours.
Yeah. And I'll come back, sweetheart. I promise you, in the new year.
Yeah, I will. Anytime. We
just barely scratched the surface of all that there is to discuss.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, Merry Christmas to you and your family. And thank you very much for your time once again.
Oh, it's my pleasure entirely. And I wish everyone out there who's watching this Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Ramadan, Happy Hanukkah, and Festivus for the rest of us.